Happy Easter! Today I have another Easter Bunny card. This one is a 3D fun fold Easter Bunny card. And you can see here that it is flat when it folds, but when you open it up, it becomes 3D. I got the idea for this card from last weekend when my friend Mary Kay and I made this mountain card. And she challenged me to change it into an Easter card. I will have a link in the description to the video where we got this idea from, as well as measurements, supply lists, and other helpful hints. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make this Easter Bunny card from start to finish. This is Lisa Goodell, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is get out my Stamparatus accessories and my Easter Bunny stamp set. I'm also going to be using the Memento Black Tuxedo ink pad. And you need to get a piece of basic white cardstock for the bunnies. You can either just do the normal kind or the thick kind. So I'm going to be putting the bunny stamp onto a clear block, and then I'm going to be inking it up with the Tuxedo Black ink. And then I'm going to stamp it on my page. Then you're going to do it again with the two other bunny stamps. Because this Easter Bunny set comes with 3 different stamps of the Easter Bunny facing different directions. When you stamp each one, stamp them a little bit apart so that you can use the punch on the bunny that is facing to the right. And when you use the Easter Bunny punch, you turn it around so you can see where it punches. And then you stick your paper in between and you can line it up so you know exactly where you're going to punch. And then you punch it out. Like so. Next, you can get the egg stamp. The stamp has 3 little Easter eggs on it. And then I'm just going to be stamping them across the page. I'm not exactly sure how many I'm going to need yet. So I'm just going to stamp it several times. I'm going to speed up this section of where I'm stamping all the images in black and white. I also want to mention right now that I am stamping on top of my Stamparatus because that is a really solid surface to stamp on. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the table that I am using right now is one of those plastic kind of hollow tables. I don't know if they call it a lifeline table or something like that, which is a really good portable table. You can fold it and put it away. However, sometimes when you stamp on it, it moves. It's too flexible. And so I find that I get better images if I use the Stamparatus. I went ahead and stamped extras because I am going to make some cards for my great nieces and nephews with the card I'm making now and also with the other Easter Bunny card that I posted a video of yesterday. So you can see I just finished a whole sheet of stamps and now I am just finishing up the stamping with the carrots. So now all the stamped images I'm going to set aside, and now I'm going to work on the card base, which is Parakeet Party, which is an in color. And I started off with a 8.5 by 5.5 sheet of cardstock. Okay, this is going to be the trickiest part of the project. What you need to do is you need to have a score line or cut line in the middle right there at 2 3/4. It does need to be cut, but right now I'm only going to score it to stay on the safe side. And it needs to not be scored all the way down. You need to start at 1 1/4. And sorry for my head, I'm trying to make sure that I get it to the right spot. And then you are going to go down and then you are going to stop at 6 1/8 of an inch. And now you're going to turn it to the left and you are going to score for sure from that middle score line down. So the first one is going to be at 1 1/4 inches, which is where your score line should start. And so then you're going to score from where the score line already is going across horizontally at 2 3/4, and you're going to score from that spot right there and then down to the end of the cardstock. Just like that. And I went over it a couple times just to make sure that I was going to be able to see it there. Then you're going to move it to the 2-inch mark. And again, start at the middle where the score line is, and you're going to score all the way down. And then you're going to move it to the next one, which is at, what was that, 3 1/8. I have that list over there on the right side of the grid paper. And then the next one is at 4 1/4. So you're going to just move it over, do the same thing at that measurement, 4 1/4. And then you're going to move it over. And the last one is at 6 1/8. And that should be at the end of the score line that's going across horizontally across the cardstock. Okay, then you need to pull it out. Hopefully you can see that. And now we need to actually cut that line that's in the middle where I had scored it just to be on the safe side. So now you're going to cut that starting at 1 1/4 and it ends at 6 1/8. But when you do this, you need to make sure that you have the score lines the correct way. So I ended up doing this the wrong way, and you'll see me now. I need to flip the paper around so that where I start cutting is at the 1 1/4 mark at the top. So I have it lifted up as I am moving the blade to the right spot, which is at 1 1/4, where that score mark going across should start. And then I'm going to cut down to the last score mark, which should be at 6 1/8 inches. So let's look and see how I did. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but yeah, okay, the cut is from the first score mark to the last score mark. So that turned out okay, great. Now we're ready to fold it. So now you're going to put it so that the 1 1/4 score line is down at the bottom of the paper. I'm going to walk you through this, but this is what it's going to look like when you're done. So the bottom 1 1/4 mark is going to be a mountain fold, and the next one's going to be a valley fold, then a mountain fold and a valley fold, and then the last one is a mountain fold. So this is what it's going to look like when you are done. And here it is from the side. So you can get a bone folder and really get those creases good and sharp. And then you can turn it around and you can use the bone folder on the valley folds as well. Oh, there, you can see how that definitely helped. So now comes the fun part, decorating it with the bunnies and the eggs and everything. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is add some grass to that green cardstock. So I'm going to get back out my black tuxedo ink, and I'm going to get the little grass stamp, and I'm just going to randomly stamp it on my green cardstock. Now, starting in that section right where I move the magnet down, this next section here, that actually, if you're going to stamp that section, you should flip the grass around because that's going down into a valley. And that section actually doesn't even need to be stamped. So those 3 grass pieces I just stamped, I would not stamp that. Skip over that. And then when you go to this next section, this is going to be something that does need to be stamped, and that will show. So stamp these next 3 that I'm going to do. But then after this, the next section I'm going to skip, and I'm going to go up to the last area that's more of a square area, and that's going to be the part going up to the mountain fold at the top, and that will show again. So see how I skipped that one section there? And if you do stamp all of it the same way, I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but it's just after I did it, I thought that would be a better way. So I thought I'd pass it on. But I did not see the need to throw this piece of cardstock away and start over just because of those 3 little stamps. And now I'm going to keep stamping on the left side, but I'm only going to stamp up to the fold. So this is what it is going to look like when it is all folded. And that little blank area up on the top left is going to be covered up. That's why I didn't keep stamping up there. So now we're going to start coloring in our stamped images. I'm going to give it a watercolor effect using the water painters and pumpkin pie ink. In this case, I'm just putting the ink pad straight onto a clear block and using that as my color. I dip the painter in the ink and then I'm just kind of scribbling over where I want it to be. If you look carefully, you can see there's white spots, and I'm okay with that because this is like a watercolor effect. Sometimes I'll go back and add a little extra, so there will be some sections that are a little bit darker. This method is very forgiving. For example, if you used markers or colored pencils, you'd probably want to color in every little tiny bit so there was no white showing. Now I'm going to turn the block around and I'm going to add some green ink so I can do the leafy part of the carrots. This time I'm using Granny Apple Green ink. And I forgot to show it, but you do need to clean your water painter when you switch colors. And the way you do that is to just scribble it on a piece of grid paper, or what I like to do is get a paper towel and I just squeeze out a little of the water and scribble it on there until it is clear. Your bristles might end up getting colored at some point, but as long as you're scribbling and it turns out clear, then that is fine. When you're done, you can just take your paper towel or a wet wipe to clean off your block. Now I'm going to get out my paper snips and I am going to be fussy cutting the carrots. And fussy cutting means that we don't have like a die to use it in a machine to automatically cut around the edges, but you have to fussy cut, meaning you have to use your scissors to cut around the edges. And I do the best I can to get pretty close, but again, there's going to be some white showing here and there, and that's totally fine. Also, these paper snips are really amazing at cutting little tiny details. Some of my paper snips I've had for over 10 years and they work great as long as you are careful with them and only cut paper with them, or like thin ribbon is totally okay. Just don't use it to cut all kinds of other things, otherwise they will get dull. And now I'm going to cut out those 2 bunnies that do not come with a matching punch. I'm going to speed this section up. Next, we're going to color in the bunnies, and I'm going to use petal pink for the bunny ears, just the inside part of the bunny ears on each one. And I'm also going to use that on the hind feet of that one bunny that's sitting where you can see the little pads on his bottom paws, I guess you would call it. However, now that I'm looking at this, I think later in the video I go back over these ears and I use polished pink ink instead, because that actually matches more with the brighter colors that I'm using on this card. Next, I'm going to get out the balmy blue ink and I'm going to put some of that on my block. And again, I don't think I showed myself cleaning my water painter, but I did. And so now I'm just adding a little bit of blue to all the bunny eyes. And here I'm going to show myself wiping off the water painter after I use the blue. And I'm also cleaning off my block with a chamois after I'm done with that ink. And now I'm going to cut out the rest of the carrots. And now I'm going to color more images using Mango Melody up at the top. And then I am going to add some Granny Apple Green and some polished pink and some Daffodil Delight. I'm going to speed this up again, and I think partway through I also add some balmy blue. Okay, now moving on, we are going to be cutting out some of the colored and stamped images now. Now is the super fun part where you need to take all of these fun colored pieces and decide where you want to put them on the card. And if you are recreating this, feel free to copy how I put them, but you can also do however you want. Maybe you want to cut out a lot more eggs. Maybe you want to have more than 3 bunnies. Here I decided that I wanted to use a piece of stamped grass, but I am going to glue it on to the front of that, and so I added more green down underneath with the water painter. And now I'm going to be gluing on the carrots on the back side of that little piece of grass, and then I will attach the whole thing to the front of the card. I also got tired of holding down the card flat while I was trying to do other things, and so I got the reversible tweezers that you can see on the right, and I pinched the whole card together so now it will stay flat. And now I'm going to keep gluing items on and arranging them how I like. So I'm going to speed this up again. At one point, I take some polished pink cardstock to put a little background layer underneath my sentiment. And to adhere everything down, I either use the multi-purpose liquid glue or I use dimensionals to have them look even more 3D. Now at this point I decided I wanted to have the bunny sitting with his hands in front of him to hold that carrot. And so to make it look like that, I just drew a little bunny paw to match what was already there, and then I cut it out and I glued it on the carrot, and then I glued the carrot onto the front of the bunny so it looked like he was holding it. So the last thing that I decided to do was add some Wink Estella to just give that little glitter and glitz to finish off my project. And you can see me adding it there to the pink of the bunny ears and his nose, a little bit on the eggs, the flowers, just a little bit here and there to make it look magical. And so here is the finished 3D Fun Fold Easter Bunny card. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel for more.